yet, but she's on the phone. Oh, cool.
I got it.
So I'm going to go over the agenda really quick. Ahorita voy a repasar la agenda. I don't have a copy to share in my screen today. No tengo una copia para compartir mi pantalla hoy, but I'm going to go through it my face. Pero lo voy a repasar con mi cara. So we're first going to have an introduction. I'll share of where our goals are for tonight, and introduce you to our guest. Ahorita voy a dar una introducción de cuáles son nuestras metas hoy y también tienes nuestra invitada. Joe is then going to lead us in a discussion about power, which she will share more what exactly that means. Después, Joe nos va a guiar en una conversación sobre el poder y va a explicar un poquito más exactamente lo que significa eso. We'll talk about that in small groups and then share with the whole group. Lo vamos a discutir en grupos chiquitos y después compartir lo que discutimos en el grupo grande. We'll hear from our guest then about other parts of Habitat. Después vamos a escuchar de nuestra invitada sobre otra parte de Habitat. Have some group conversation. Después hablar en el grupo. And after that, we want to give you a heads up, but we're going to be giving you guys some praise. So, y después queremos avisarles que vamos a dar unos cumplidos a ustedes. So for the shyer people, you can prepare yourself emotionally. Para los que son más tímidos, pueden preparar sus emociones, sus espíritus para el momento. All right, so tonight we're going to be celebrating, we're going to do translation. Sorry. I was like, I don't think I'm going to do this whole thing in two languages. Ahorita vamos a empezar con la traducción. Va a aparecer el mundito debajo de la pantalla. The little globe will show up at the bottom of the screen. And then we'll make sure that you can hear Marta's voice. Después vamos a confirmar que pueden escuchar a Martita bonita.
I don't have the option to become the interpreter yet.
Yeah, I don't see
Molly
it.
is the only one who can do that as the host, so we need to get her attention. I think she's helping someone with tech support right now, but yeah. I sent her a message.
Okay, great.
Here we go.
Perfect. All right, so elija el mundito y elegir la canal de español y si nos puede confirmar si escuchan a Marta.
Hola, sí, ok. Sí. Gracias.
Sí, Marta.
Gracias, Lulu. Hola.
So tonight we're going to start by what we started to talk about last week, which is celebrating all the work that you all in Village One, the planners of Village One, have done, which is a lot to get to this point. And we're also going to talk about, we talked about the ribbon cutting ceremony. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that is and what it means and what parts of it there are. We're also going to reflect back on some of the ideas that you shared last week that we should start sharing with other members of the community who are going to start to be part of the second village and also future villages and parts of redevelopment. I'll introduce you now to our guest. This is Ruth Stone. She works in advancement with the Habitat team. She will explain a bit more what exactly advancement means, but Ruth is wonderful and is a wealth of knowledge and experience, so we're really excited she could be here tonight with us. Just a quick summary of what we heard last week. Some of the highlights for what everyone enjoyed or has enjoyed, your favorite parts. We're learning technical skills and working with the architects and engineers, the field trips we took to see other communities of affordable housing or just neighborhood designs and other habitat homes. when we got to walk the land to see exactly where your homes are going to be, doing the block designs to lay out the neighborhood, being at the Board of Supervisors meeting and getting to speak, and even those that didn't speak, seeing their friends and neighbors speak, and also just being there in that energy. And some people said that simply having these meetings every week means so much to them, just to come together and have this group of people that you've gotten to know. People we were trying to get you to say negative things, but apparently no one wanted to. But the biggest challenge people said was it's sometimes hard to move forward when we don't have all the answers. That can be hard to accept. And we appreciate your patience. And we also, our focus last week was how to communicate and what to share with community members and residents in Southwood. But this week, we're going to shift our focus a little bit and think about how to communicate with partners from outside the neighborhood that we work with and that are supporting the redevelopment project. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Jo, and she can explain a little bit more what we're going to talk about.
Great. Thanks, Jordan. So like Jordan said, tonight we are going to talk a little bit about the ribbon cutting ceremony and working with outside partners. And I wanted to take this opportunity to reflect back on a conversation that we had actually years ago. We've done some looking back last week, and I wanted to continue that and connect it to the topic of power. And so you guys might be wondering, what is that connection between talking to outside partners and looking back and this topic of power? So I'm gonna try to share my screen, see if I do this successfully. Can everyone see the screen? So this conversation about power is something that actually started back in September 2017. So almost 3 years ago, we had a conversation with a group of planners, and let's see if I can advance the slide. And this poster is where we started when we were talking as a group and trying to define what is power. And I think when I look around the room tonight, that I know that Rose was there, and I know that Ludovina was there back in September 2017. I'm not going to put either one of you guys on the spot to remember exactly how you defined it, but one of the things that you guys, or some of the ways you defined it, was by saying that there are different types of power and these are your notes, these are your words. I think it was actually Will who wrote these notes down, but it was defined as money can be a form of power, influence, the ability to control outcomes, and also physical power. I'm sure a lot of you who have little kids know that they have a lot of power, right? Whether they will or will not do. You can't physically make them do some of those things. So power comes in lots of different ways and shapes. And this is important to talk about because when we are looking at building partnerships, it's important to look around in the community, and both within Southwood and outside of Southwood. And as you're trying to accomplish this goal of redevelopment, you need to try to identify potential partners who have these different forms of power. And so the next exercise we did was talking about some of these different types that you guys actually mentioned back in September. So where we landed was that there were 4 basic types of power. There was the power of expertise. So people who have experience or skills. There was the power of influence. So that's part of why we're talking about this tonight. We're going to talk about outside partners with influence. Relationships. a lot of times it's not just what you know, but who you know, right? So that can be a form of power. And then money is another form of power. And so back in 2017, when we were just at the beginning of talking about how to engage potential partners, some of the topics that we discussed. And so when I look at where we are now, I think it's really exciting that we have built connections with these different types of power. But more importantly, I would also acknowledge that lots of you guys have new power that has been developed over these last 3 years. So I want to take some time before we talk about our outside partners and break into small groups and revisit this topic the same way that last week we took some time to reflect back over our favorite moments and the highlights. I'd like to do the same thing around this topic of power. So I think Molly is gonna send us to different small groups.
Yeah. And I will give you all 15 minutes in your groups. And then I will call you back at the end of those 15 minutes. So here we go.
Amount of power and influence, like the people that we didn't even know that went up and spoke in favor of this project, which I thought that was an interesting point to make. Some people who have power we might work with, that one we didn't come up with as much, but thought about how when we almost named some of the streets after like Dave Matthews or Tony Bennett, like those would have been people to establish a relationship with. And for what kind of power the people in the group had, we had a variety. It was the power to work, to go to work, the power to talk and express yourself, to say what you need and what you want, what you're missing, what you need to do. Also that our group has a power because we are a group and because we work together. We all have a dream to have homes. And when we don't like something or we want something changed, we have more power when we express it as a group. And also having the power, getting power from just like moving forward to having the, say ganas, like oomph to want to, sorry Marta, to want to learn new things and move forward in your life. That's a power to have.
You said that was, there's oomph. You said that is a form of power. I like that. That's a new one for me. That's great. Thank you. So I'll go next. I think similarly, I was selected to share the notes from our group. There were some common themes with what Jordan's group shared. I liked this definition of what is power, the idea that power is people hearing your voice and what you have to say, and that requires putting your mind to it, I think committing to it and saying what you need to say without holding back. And part of that is not just speaking your own mind, but having a willingness to ask questions when there's something that you don't understand so that you can get that information. That is actually a form of power, to be willing to ask hard questions. When we talked about different partners that we've worked with, everybody recognized that the architects and engineers all have that form of power, that expertise, that experience on how to do the design work. That the government, definitely, the county has the power. In particular, they have the power to say no. And there was some conversation that it feels almost like we're not sure if, you know, there's still some doubts about how that power will play out, and needing to make sure that we continue to work with the county in particular, so that when they make the final decision that they say yes to the project and to the design. In addition to that, a lot of similar moments of power, that opportunity to write letters to the Board of Supervisors and to speak up at those meetings felt like a moment of important power. And then the idea that working with people in power requires compromise. And if you're trying to achieve something that's hard. And then in terms of, I thought this was a great point, that one of the forms of power that they experienced in this process was the power of being in a room full of people who are working together, and acknowledging that as a neighborhood, there's a form of power when you work together. So let me see, I think Manda, you might be the next person on my screen.
All right, Mercedes, Liduvina, Inocencia, ¿quiere compartir? ¿O ustedes? Sí, sí, sí.
Yo no tomé mucho las notas, Manda. No, bueno, me recuerdo de un poco, pero no sé las Lidu o Inocencia si quieren compartir ellas.
Pues ustedes pueden compartir la responsabilidad también.
But you can take responsibility and do it.
If you want to listen, if you can go ahead and click the interpretation channel and the English channel for that. Pero cuando está lista, Mercedes puede.
Cuando esté lista, Mercedes. Oh, I'm sorry. When Mercedes is ready, she can share.
Compartir de las cosas que me.
I'm gonna share a little bit of the things that I remember, but
lo demás, si no digo bien. Pues nosotros hablamos también de que el poder se basa también en el trabajo que uno aporta, en ideas también, y pues tener la juventud también en los grupos que tenemos, también eso da poder, porque pues la juventud trae ideas nuevas o frescas que tal vez pues uno ya no tiene esas ideas, y la juventud aporta eso y también pues nos da poder, y el poder de la solidaridad también y trabajar juntos, el poder de ayudarnos, y también el poder que nos dan los arquitectos también con su trabajo. Y
Liduvina.
Pues yo creo que es lo que dijo Mercedes, parecido a lo que ya habíamos platicado del poder de ayudarnos unos a otros. Es más o menos similar a lo que dijo ella, lo que yo también pienso.
Sí, es cierto.
Y el estar toda la comunidad reunida en la junta con el condado también fue parte de tener poder para que el proyecto se aprobara, y al igual con toda la ayuda de todos ustedes y de los arquitectos y pues toda la gente que fue a poner un poquito de su poder ahí.
Sí, porque les digo que todos tenemos un poder y
everyone has a power, and we show them when we are together. in the meetings
O en algún trabajo.
or at work.
Es cierto. Y también porque son
That's true. And also because we're women.
Mujeres y
Yeah,
somos
because
poderosas.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias.
Sí, gracias a ustedes.
Okay, so let's see. I'm looking through my screens. Are there any other small groups?
I think that's it.
Right? Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
Can you, I'm trying to manage a tech thing. Will you handle the wrap up of the small discussion?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So thank you everybody for taking a minute to think about why, what power means and what it is and who has it. One of the reasons we wanted to talk about this tonight is that we have brought in a guest, Ruth, who many of you probably have met before. You probably recognize her. She works over at the main Habitat office in the advancement department. And so she's going to talk a little bit about what they do over there. You all have worked with them a lot before, but as we're looking forward to the next steps for communicating what you guys have been working on to outside partners who want to support the Southwood project, Ruth is a person who works a lot with those donors and other people who support in other ways that Joe and you all talked about earlier. And she's going to share a little bit about that work and talk about what we have coming up that will be communicating your work to those outside partners. So I'm going to hand it over to Ruth. Ruth, I will share the presentation and you can just let me know when you want me to change slides. Okay?
Thank you so much. So when we talk about advancement at Habitat, it's both fundraising and communications. And when people think fundraising, they think you go and you ask people for money. But that's really very little of what we do. What we do most is to help make connections between people who believe in what we're doing at Habitat, believe in what you're doing at Southwood. We make connections with people of influence, as you've already talked about. We make connections with people with money. But mostly what we do is make connections that are built around our relationships, bringing more and more people into the Habitat family by sharing your story, our story together. And it's not only telling our stories, but it's listening to folks as well about what inspires them when they think about Habitat, what inspires them when they think about Southwood, what inspires them when they think about building homes in other parts of the city. So it's really about a relationship much more than it is about money. And one of the biggest ways we can build these relationships is through our storytelling. Change slide. And so we put out many publications, and many of you have helped us by sharing your stories that we can write about in our publications. So we have a capital campaign, which is a special campaign to raise money mostly for Southwood so that we can get this project off the ground. So you all have been doing an incredible amount of groundwork to get us to the point where people will begin to see everything that you've been doing to build this community. So the capital campaign is one thing that we're doing, and our goal is to raise $15 million in that campaign. Next slide. We tell our stories in what we call our impact report. And this is a report we produce once a year to tell people in the community everything that Habitat and you and other partner families have been doing to help build houses, to help build communities and neighborhoods. Next slide. We send out 2 newsletters every year. And again, so many of you all have been generous in sharing your stories so that we can tell others in the community the work that you're doing and the great, interesting lives you lead. Next slide. The truth is, your voices are probably the most important voices for raising money for Southwood. And as you have seen with the rezoning, your voices are very powerful. And so we're about to have a ribbon cutting ceremony with other people, you all and others who have helped us to get to this point so far. Next slide. And the great news is we've had many people who are supporting us. So in the orange, you'll see that we already have commitments of $3.5 million from our state government, the people in Richmond. You'll see that we have over almost 4 million, 3.8 million from the county. Even though sometimes the rezoning was frustrating, the county very much wants to support the redevelopment as well, and they have committed 3.8 million to help us do this, to help you. And then in our capital campaign, we already have raised over $11 million. So when we have our ribbon cutting, it's an opportunity to bring people together, you, our donors, people from Richmond at the state, people from the county, to celebrate a milestone, to celebrate. And what we chose to celebrate at this point in time is finishing up the site plan so that we can actually get the bulldozers in there, build the roads that you've been planning in order to start building homes. So this is the time where we can continue to make people from the state and from the county feel part of our community and part of our family as partners with us to both celebrate and to look forward and look down the road about what we want to continue doing together, because this will be a long project. We're at the very early stages of the project. And so we want to continue our relationships and build them and strengthen them as we come together for the first homes that are built in the first village that you all have designed. So in the short term, on September 18th, we will be having the ribbon cutting ceremony, and we are inviting people from around the state and inviting people who have helped us raise all of this money, and we hope will help continue raising money with us in order to build Southwood. And I would say that probably there's nothing more important. When I look back, I remember when the state officials came to town to learn about Southwood, and how I think it was Rose who made a presentation, and they were there in the trailer and looking at all the work that you had started, and some have come back since then, and again seen each step of the way as you have developed this project. Your voices and your work is probably the most important influence that Habitat has to keep this project going. And so one of the things I wanted you all to think about as you think about this ceremony, oftentimes these might have some speeches, maybe by some people from Richmond, and they might be talking about why Habitat or why Southwood is such an important project to Virginia. And it might be someone from the county speaking about why this is so important as a project for the county. And we hope that also your voices will rise up so that you too will share with them and with one another why this is so important to you all and to the community and to Charlottesville. So with that, it's a very short explanation of what we do, but I did want to first of all say thank you very much. It's your hard work that has made it possible to raise all that money we showed you. Did I? Yeah, I did show you the chart. But it was, you know, it's your work. It's your work. And the partnerships that you have sustained and built with us and with others in the community that have made this such a success so far. And I can't thank you enough. Sharing your stories, sharing your ideas, it just helps us so much, because it's really about our relationships with people and telling your stories and hearing their stories and their interests as we work together on this big project. So thank you. I will let Rush and Joe fill in all of the pieces I've left out.
Well, thank you, Ruth, for sharing all of that and for being here with us tonight. You do so much work kind of behind the scenes, or that we don't all get to appreciate, and it's what makes the project possible. So I think the appreciation goes both ways.
Team effort. Team.
It is a team effort. It 100% is. There's a lot of talk about how we are powerful when we are together, right? And that is very, very true. So what we want to do next is talk more about exactly what Ruth was just asking. Now that we've had some reflection on what power looks like, what power is, and we've had some reflection on what we've done to date and what we have the opportunity to do with this audience or platform on September 18th through this ribbon cutting ceremony. We want to talk about how does your voice want to be represented? How do you see yourselves sharing your story with these outside partners, state leaders, local leaders at an event like this? And one thing I would say is that, you know, when we talked last week a lot about how powerful people felt going through the public process with the county when we were in the rezoning, right? Getting to stand up and talk about what you wanted to see in your community. And the rezoning process and the site planning process are such different processes. They're such different things to go through. The public nature of the rezoning, we see a lot of the evidence as we go through that process. We have all of these opportunities to show up and to speak to supervisors. And then we get into the site planning process, and it's so much more of a technical process. It's much more sort of this grinding, you know, we get comments, we submit. There's none of these big public opportunities. And so this ribbon cutting on the 18th of September really gives us that chance to surface all the work that looks like it's been quiet. You know, on the surface it looks quiet, but we know it's not been quiet. We know it's been very busy and very loud, but the outside folks may not be seeing that same work that you guys are seeing. And so we get the chance to surface it and to celebrate it on the 18th. And we talked about how there might be speeches given. I heard definitely from the reflections from the small group, this acknowledgement that power is only powerful when you have an audience or a platform, right? Like if you're speaking about something you care about, but there's no one there to hear you, you don't have very much power. Power and platform or like opportunity go hand in hand. And so this opportunity on the 18th is one of those moments to really be able to speak to a group and tell your story in a way that feels really good and authentic to you. So hearing about the 18th, knowing what you guys know about what it feels like to stand up and share your story, what kinds of ways can you imagine engaging with this event? And I'll acknowledge that it might be a little bit different than a ribbon cutting might have been in, 6 months ago, before COVID, before all of these changes in social distancing, that we have to be creative about how we create the celebration and the excitement. But we can figure that stuff out. We always do. And you guys always give us really good ideas about that. So I want to just open it up. If nobody talks, I will start calling on people. You can pass, but I will call on you. What do you imagine? How could you see participating in an event like a ribbon cutting? What do you see yourself doing?
Ain't nobody saying anything.
Teresa, you unmuted yourself and you said something. Ooh, thank you for volunteering. I got one. Teresa, do you have any ideas or thoughts? What does it sound like to you?
It sounds wonderful. It sounds like it's actually going to happen.
What gives you that hope? Tell me about it.
What gave me that hope was the lady that just got finished talking, with everybody contributing, and the groundbreaking. So it is actually gonna be for real. So, so I mean, everything sounds good. That's my thought.
That's great.
It's actually gonna happen.
Yeah. It feels more real, maybe hearing these numbers from Ruth and all these people coming together. Yeah. It feels possible. That's great. Thank you, Teresa.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad I could figure that
Yeah.
figure that I can hear you. So that sounds great.
Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome.
All right, Teresa was brave and broke the ice. Who wants to go next? I don't think she meant to, but she did.
Okay, I'll go.
Yay.
All right. As far as contributing, like we did with the board meetings, show up in numbers. I mean, let them know we're still invested.
Richard, can I ask a hard question? Because you're good at giving answers. So I don't mind asking you
You
something
can ask a
hard.
hard question. I don't know if I can answer the hard question.
Okay, fair enough. So what do we do about numbers when we aren't supposed to gather together as a group?
That's a good question. Not supposed to have more than 10 still, correct?
I think they'll let you have 50, but you got to be spaced apart, so that gets kind of tricky. But
Well, where is it going to be held at?
that's a great question. What do you imagine? Where's big enough?
I don't know, but it's going to be on the path and walk in the woods. Everybody pick a tree and stand by a tree.
I love everybody gets to adopt a tree.
There you go. There you go.
So actually
mean,
going and walking the trails.
It's for those who can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, and maybe for those who can't, we can take them with us with technology.
yeah. That would work. Because I'm still having a hard time getting around myself. But anyway, it's show up in numbers, just like at the meetings. That's about all I got to say.
Be present so you can't be forgotten.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. I like the trails idea. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah. But I will say, Rush, let me add one more thing.
Yes, sir.
I said it earlier, that when Village One is done, that the people of Village One need to step up and help future villages and the future sites that will be redeveloped. Just because we get ours don't mean we can sit back and say, well, we got it, the heck with it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to show up because we will have to go in front of the board again, future development. We need to show that support.
I love that, Richard. I'm writing your name down right now.
Oh, don't do that.
Thank you, Richard. That's great. Well, it goes to the point that so many people sounded like they made a small group that we're powerful when we're together. And so we don't want people to just drop out because their part's done, because you're still part of the community and you still bring power to the table. That's great. Joe Olson's clapping for you. Mercedes, ¿quería contribuir algo?
Sí, quería preguntar si las personas aparte de ustedes, de Habitat, por ejemplo, las del grupo, pueden participar en esos eventos.
Dime otra vez la última parte.
So I can translate if you want, Rush.
Oh, she dropped out with the last word, so I didn't. But you can translate. Sorry.
¿Sí escuchaste, Marta?
Marta está traduciendo a inglés.
Oh,
para otras
okay.
personas. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
English
Sí,
speakers on the channel. Did you guys switch?
Mi pregunta era que si...
Okay, well, we'll repeat the question then. That's a great, okay. Dime, Mercedes, lo siento.
Mi pregunta era que si personas que nosotros estamos participando en este grupo, ¿puede uno participar o asistir a ese evento?
Qué buena pregunta. Jordan, will you translate?
Yeah, so Mercedes is asking, sorry, Marta, I don't think we can get other people on the phone, that if people who aren't necessarily in this group can still come to the event.
That's a great question. And I think the answer is yes, because as you guys know, some of you guys have been around since the beginning, day one. And so you've been here for all of it. We also know we have a lot of folks who did a lot of work and contributed a lot to the rezoning, and then stepped back a little bit for the first village, but this is still their project and they're still really committed to it. So I think we definitely can make this sort of a bigger invite for storytelling and sharing and participating. That's a great question, Mercedes.
Okay, gracias. Gracias.
Wanda, come on. What do you want to tell me?
Pass.
Fair enough. I said you could. Maria, do you have anything to add?
No, I just think that being together as a community, I guess just to see how, I mean, to be able to see what we've accomplished and get it all worked on, I guess it'll be great for everyone.
Would you be willing? Maria went to Los Angeles and spoke about our organization and what we're doing to like a group of complete strangers. So she's brave.
No, I'm not.
I don't know. Evidence would point that you are.
Girl, you definitely are.
What do you imagine, having done that, what do you imagine, what was meaningful to you in that you could imagine doing here locally? What spoke to you?
I guess just being like a support, I guess, for the whole community. So I don't know. I just think it would be great for those who can show up to be there to support.
Thank you, Maria. All right, last call. Who hasn't spoken? Don't leave anything unsaid. Don't regret not having shared something with the group. Any other thoughts? Mercedes, are you raising your hand? Levanta la mano. No, he said no. Okay. Well, here's my other offering, because I know sometimes speaking in these bigger groups, especially when we aren't all actually together, can be intimidating or weird. If you go away and you think about something and you come up with an idea that you really want to share with our group, know that you can always call us, text us, email us, whatever you want to do to get in touch. Happy to talk about your ideas and your thoughts. But thank you. I'm glad to hear your hope, Teresa. That's really great. I will pass it over to, well, nobody's on the agenda for who I'm passing it to, but we're gonna embarrass you guys more now.
I'll take the mic, Rush. Rush said we were gonna embarrass you guys. I prefer to think about it as appreciating you guys. Before we do that, I want to take one more step back in the past and share my screen again from that conversation that we had back in 2017. And if you noticed earlier, I had covered this last definition of what is power. And I covered that. It's actually a quote from community members and how they defined power. And I thought it was really excellent, this definition that power is an ability to do something. And I wish I had written down who said it, but someone said that power was when education meets opportunity. And I wanted to go back to this because as we transition into appreciating everybody, what I have heard over and over again is that as you as a group have taken, really made the commitment to this process and educating yourself on the design skills, learning from the architects and the engineers, showing up week after week after week. Some of you from 2017 on. That education or that experience, coupled with the opportunity to be at the center of the design process and the opportunity to raise your voices, is no small accomplishment. And we are so impressed at the commitment you have shown. And it's absolutely necessary to acknowledge that work that you guys have done. And so we do want to appreciate, we may accidentally embarrass in the process, but one of the things that is hardest for us in this remote setting is the missed opportunity to celebrate. And that's really what we want to do tonight as we talk about looking back and looking forward, and how Ruth said it so well, inspiring others to want to partner with us by sharing our story. So if you'll bear with us, we would love to present some certificates and acknowledge what each one of you have contributed to the group. So I'm going to pass this over in terms of facilitation. Is it, Molly, is that something that you'll facilitate?
Yeah. I think what we're going to try to do is call Lucy and Joanne on a conference call so that we can have the English channel and the Spanish channel, so that everybody can hear the appreciations that we're going to share. So I was going to try to do that, but I can't actually get us started and do that at the same time. So
I'll get us started if you call.
Okay.
Joanne.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Joanne and Lucy, look out for a call from me, and you can go ahead and answer it.
While we're setting that up, I'll just acknowledge one more time that the ribbon cutting ceremony is set for September 18th, I believe. And in terms of the timing, I believe we are thinking it would be in the morning. Is that still true, Ruth? We're thinking maybe around 10:30ish in the morning. So that feels really far away. But in a pandemic, it feels like time has just like gone at warp speed. So just make sure, are we pretty confident, Ruth, about that date and time?
I think the
Joe,
date is,
I realize I can't be the one to do it because I have to do my part in Spanish.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
I'll try, Joanne.
Okay.
the date is set. The time maybe 10:30, 11, to allow people to drive here and to get to Southwood to join us.
So sorry, Joe, it has to be you. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Oh, I realized that I should have planned this better. So bear with me. I think we're going to be starting with Manda going first. And I'm sorry we can't see you all in person, but we will be delivering to you some certificates to recognize your achievement and participation over the past year of site planning. It really is a big accomplishment that you all have done. And you probably noticed that we have a number of guests. The architects and engineers have come to be with us this evening and celebrate this moment, because we're going to be you all are going to be moving to the next phase as this phase of site planning wraps up. Then we're not going to be meeting as frequently to plan anymore. And so we're going to take a minute to recognize each of you and share a virtual certificate, which you will later get in the mail or on your doorstep. So I'm going to hand it over to Amanda to get us started. Joe, were you able to get the phone connected? No.
Sí, vamos a empezar con la primera persona, que es Alfredo. Siempre
Sí,
está
aquí estoy.
sonriendo y haciendo bromitas, y era tan valiente cuando habló durante la reunión de la comisión de planificación sin algo preparado. Entonces,
You spoke at the board meeting, supervisors, and thank you very much.
Gracias. Llegué tarde porque estaba en un
Thank
techo.
you. I was working.
si no se preocupe. Y la otra persona en la pareja, que es Reina,
Sí.
también ella es alguien que escucha bien y siempre está dispuesta para mostrar su apoyo en el proyecto también. Entonces, un aplauso para Reina también.
Bueno, gracias.
Gracias, Alfredo y Reina.
Sí, de nada.
Voy a pasar
Aquí seguimos trabajando.
Qué bueno, qué bueno.
Sí, tuve que limpiar todas las aceras y recogí la basura. Pues cuando pasaba con mi perrito me bajaba a la calle. Sí, de veras, pasé con una máquina, recorté los árboles porque ya demasiado. Y recogí la basura, pues la vez pasada me regañó Michelle.
And then Michelle got mad because I was doing her job. Thank you for sharing that. But we're gonna...
propia manera también. Bueno, gracias, Alfredo y Reina.
Sí,
A reminder to English speakers, if you haven't already, you can pick the channel where Marta is translating into English, just in case you haven't picked it. Ahorita vamos a seguir con Gaby. ¿Podría estar? Gaby siempre está dispuesta a compartir en nuestros grupitos. Aunque hay momentos de silencio cuando nadie está hablando, ella siempre tiene algo bueno que decir, algo que contribuir. Tiene un buen sentido de humor y también tiene las mejores expresiones durante las reuniones, que expresa como todos nos sentimos sobre las reuniones de Zoom, pero nadie lo quiere decir. Así que un aplauso para Gaby.
Gracias.
De nada, a usted.
Otra persona es Inocencia, que siempre está dispuesta a hablar y iniciar las conversaciones cuando estamos en nuestros grupos pequeños. Y también es una gran líder para su familia y lleva sus intereses en su corazón. Entonces, gracias, Inocencia, por todo. También Alejandra, que siempre está tan amable, considerada y atenta cuando sus compañeros están hablando y compartiendo. Y eso es algo bien importante para nosotros. Y gracias, muchísimas gracias a ustedes las dos.
Muchas gracias a ustedes también. Gracias.
Un aplauso para Inocencia y Alejandra.
So The next person is Joanne. I'm not sure if she's able to join us or not, but I'm going to go ahead and take this moment and acknowledge everything she's contributed. So
Should we remind people to give people a sec to switch channels? If they need
switch to channels.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Jordan, once someone has selected a channel, you don't have to switch back and forth. Marta has the hard work of switching her translation.
Oh my
back and
gosh,
forth.
I'm so sorry.
So like once you're on a channel, you're good. And it's poor Marta that's figuring it out.
She likes it. So for Joanne, I want to acknowledge that she always speaks up and shares her opinions, and that in particular, she wrote a beautiful letter to the Board of Supervisors that was read on her behalf. And we've always appreciated for her wisdom and her perspective. She has a very obvious pride and love for the Southwood community. And that's been a beautiful thing to see.
The next person, la próxima persona que quiero reconocer es Lulu y Juan Manuel. Son un equipo excelente porque siempre aseguran que algún representante de su familia esté en una reunión. Siempre hay representación de la familia Aguilar Vázquez. Y es por el liderazgo y la cooperación de los dos juntos. Y yo creo que Lulu asistió a casi todas las reuniones que tuvimos. Faltó quizás una en el último año y medio. Y algo especial que tengo, que quiero decir sobre Lulu es que siempre fue muy valiente compartir sus palabras, su opinión en la reunión con los supervisores. Siempre es muy amable y agradecido con las demás personas, pero también tiene sus propias opiniones que son fuertes y hermosas. Y siempre estoy agradecido que les comparte con nosotros. Y Juan Manuel, yo sé que siempre trabaja muy duro. Él no tiene mucho tiempo libre, pero gasta su tiempo libre con nosotros en las actividades comunitarias. Tenemos mucho respeto y agradecimiento para los dos.
Gracias. Tenemos un poco de dificultades para conectarnos, pero aquí estamos.
Yo creo que Manda viene próxima.
Can I go ahead and say Lucy's actually, just since it's short? I'm thinking I might show her the recording afterwards. So I think we lost our folks that were on the phone. It's probably a technical difficulty, but I will quickly acknowledge that Lucy, she may not talk as much as other people in the meeting, but that's okay. Listening is actually really hard to do and really important. I appreciate the attention that Lucy gives in observing everything that's going on and taking in everything. And one thing in particular I want to acknowledge, I think Lucy gets up at 4 a.m. every morning. She gets to work really, really early. And so I'm always impressed by her ability to stay with us all the way, particularly when we go over and later into the night. So I want to appreciate Lucy's commitment to the group.
Bueno, quiero reconocer a Kenia, que está presente, y aunque ella es más nueva, siempre está dispuesta a reír y aprender juntas con nosotros. Gracias, Kenia.
Gracias.
Próximo, quiero reconocer a Liduvina y Pedro. Es otro equipo muy fuerte. Liduvina siempre ha sido una voluntaria comunitaria muy dedicada. Y algo que es especial de Liduvina es que ella siempre piensa en cómo incluir a las demás personas, cómo comunicar, invitar a otras personas, estar parte del proceso. Ella siempre está pensando en la comunidad entera y no solo en ella misma. Y es un punto de vista muy generoso que tiene en cuanto a las demás personas. Y Pedro es una persona que siempre toma su tiempo de escuchar de verdad a lo que están diciendo las demás personas. Y como dijo Joe, no es fácil escuchar bien atentamente a lo que están diciendo las demás personas. Él siempre escucha, toma su tiempo de pensar en lo que quiere decir y cuando decide hablar, no habla a alta voz, pero lo que comparte es fuerte y bien considerado. Siempre tengo mucho agradecimiento cuando Pedro comparte sus ideas o sus opiniones, porque son siempre contribuyen mucho a la conversación. Gracias, Liduvina y Pedro.
Gracias a ustedes por escucharnos. Gracias.
Next up is another pair of Maria and Saul Basa. Maria is always willing to help out however she can and is always willing to try new things like going to LA, even though she doesn't think it was very courageous. It was the first time she was away from her kids, and I think that is really awesome. And she's super easygoing and open-minded. And just a side note, for when we start planning the ribbon cutting a little bit more, she's really crafty. So we need to keep that in mind. Y Saúl es alguien que escucha bien y siempre está dispuesto a pasar el micrófono a su esposa, a quien valorar mucho. Entonces, gracias, Saúl y María.
The next people I would like to recognize is the Torres family, Las Tres Marías, María Guadalupe, María Denise, and María Belén. I know that it's not always easy for you all to come to the meetings because the schedule can be really difficult. But you all are our most dedicated note readers. You read the notes really thoroughly every week, and you always do your best to participate in every way that you can, even if you can't come to the meeting in person. And when you can, you do make sure to come and ask great questions, and you're always such a joy to work with. So we really appreciate your participation and the contributions that your family has made over the past year. Thank you. And thanks for joining us tonight, Denise. I know you rarely get to be with us, so we're glad you're here.
Yes, thank you.
Bueno, ahorita vamos a hablar de Mercedes. Mercedes siempre está pensando en otros, en los demás, como piensa siempre como una comunidad, como no solo está ella, está pensando en todos. Es muy inclusiva, siempre está lista para compartir con el grupo, aunque nadie quiere compartir las ideas de los grupos pequeños con el grupo entero, ella siempre está lista para hacerlo. Y también está enseñando a su familia, a sus hijos a ser líderes en la comunidad. También Giselle tal vez se va a crecer y sin darse cuenta va a saber todo de la reurbanización porque tal vez ha estado escuchando. Pero sí, gracias por su perspectiva y por siempre estar pensando en nosotros.
No, gracias a ustedes también por darle la oportunidad a Giselle de estar ahí.
De nada, es un placer. Muy linda.
Que aunque no le dieran, ella va porque va conmigo.
Y la pizza.
Y la pizza. Gracias.
De nada. La próxima persona es Reina Vázquez, que Reina ha sido parte de la reurbanización por mucho tiempo y lo que me impresiona mucho es que Reina siempre, después de casi cada reunión, llama a alguien del equipo para compartir lo que le gustó, lo que no le gustó, y ese tipo de como información no tiene valor, como es imposible dar un valor concreto a esas ideas, a sus palabras, y siempre está, aunque solo está escuchando, siempre es parte del grupo y no tiene miedo de compartir sus opiniones, y ha dicho que si vamos otra vez a la junta de los supervisores, quiere hablar en frente de ellos otra y otra vez, que le gustó mucho. Así que gracias, Reina. Le damos un aplauso.
So the next person I want to acknowledge is Richard. Wow, Richard, you contribute a lot of valuable opinions and have been a great listener throughout all of these planning sessions. You have a great ability to listen to different perspectives and to make space for that, which isn't easy to do. And so I think that's probably one of your greatest strengths, but I will say one of your most impressive strengths is that you remember everything we ever say in any of these meetings. And it's a little scary. You remembered how many hours the architects and engineers had worked on this process in the last 10 months. What was your answer, Richard?
2,500.
Yeah. So anything we ever say, you remember it, which is impressive, but a little frightening. But in all seriousness, thank you for the great contributions and ideas that you share with the group. Richard, is Tiffany there? Because I wanted to acknowledge her contributions too.
No, she's working tonight.
Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and share them and you can relay them, I hope, to her. So I actually was going to say that Tiffany, I appreciate that she joins us when she can. I know that she works hours that compete with the meetings, but in particular during the charrettes that we did, I was so impressed with her ability to step into the meetings and really contribute. I remember clearly that she was the first one to pick up the marker and start drawing on the site plan, which is kind of brave. And so I really appreciate Tiffany's contributions when she is able to join us. So I hope you'll pass that along to her, Richard. So let's take a moment and appreciate Richard with a round of applause. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Jeff.
The next person I want to recognize is Rose. Molly, you're beating me with the certificates. Rose is the next person I want to acknowledge. Rose, you have shown an incredible depth of commitment to this process, particularly when the process has not been clear or easy. I think if I counted up how many times you've been willing to speak to an outside group, whether it was the Habitat board members who were being oriented to Southwood, or the Planning Commission, the Board of Supervisors, a group of 50 officials from across the state that were jammed into that double wide trailer. Toscano and Cray Deeds, you have really stepped out there and been willing to speak on behalf of the Southwood community, and that is not easy. And so I greatly appreciate your willingness to do that. It's been so important to the work that we're doing. Rose, is Sharika there?
She's in the other room.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Sharika, can you hear that? Come here and listen to this. They want to thank you for your help. Okay. Okay, you can go ahead. She's right here.
Sharika. I was gonna say similar to Tiffany. I know your schedule is a conflict with our meetings, but you show up. It's been one of the good things about the Zoom meetings. I feel like it's made it possible.
Yay.
And so we wanted to recognize your support, Sharika. And I would say one of the things I've noticed is that you almost always have a smile on your face when you show up. So we really appreciate that when you're able to, you join us, whether it's one-on-one or I am also assuming that you provide some tech support for your mom with the Zoom.
Yes.
So we really appreciate, like I said, it's been one of the good things that have come from the remote meetings that we've been able to include you in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharika.
Thank
Let's
you.
applaud Sharika and Rose.
Okay, got it. All right.
The next person that I want to recognize is Teresa. Teresa, you are so committed to participating whenever at all possible, and you never give up, even when you have technical problems and connection issues. You always just keep trying until you accomplish it, and I really admire that about you. I know you work really hard, and it's not easy to come to a meeting after a long day of work. But when you make it whenever you can, and you're always really willing to share whenever you have worries or doubts or concerns. Those are hard things to say, and we really appreciate it because we really want to know those things. And you're so committed to working with your neighbors to dream and plan for the future, even when things aren't clear, or even if you're still worried or have questions. You're so committed. And you always make sure to ask questions because you really want to make sure you understand all of the information. And you also just have a wonderful laugh, and you're filled with kindness, and you speak really beautifully and from your heart.
Thank you.
When you're sharing your ideas with the group.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, and I'm so glad you got your audio to work tonight.
Yeah, I figured out. Thank you.
See, because you always stick with it until you get it right.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate you.
Thank you.
I know this next person is going to give us a lot of flack for being like the last one, but we want to also recognize Wanda. It's just because we did it alphabetically. It's not our fault your name starts with a W. But we really appreciate how willing you are to speak up and ask all the hard questions. And although you do that and it puts us on the spot sometimes, we love your energy and your sass and your loving personality. You also have built such great connections with the rest of the group and are always like genuinely interested in how everyone is doing, and that goes a long way, and we really, really appreciate you, Wanda, and all your glory.
Thank you, guys.
All right, one final appreciation. I'm going to do this as a group because we have many of them here with us tonight, but we couldn't let a chance go by without appreciating our design and planning team. So we have Bruce and Whitney, Craig and Catherine with us tonight. So folks from our architecture team, from our engineering team, you know, we have all these meetings and do all this work, and we aren't always able to take all of our community members with us into these other conversations with decision makers and planners. And so I've been in so many meetings where this team is taking your voice with them, even when you can't be there. They advocate for you. They believe in what you're doing. They believe in your power and your authority, and they represent it authentically. And they are always working to make sure that they are doing what you have asked them to do and not making assumptions or guesses. They care very much about this project as more than just a job, I think, and as something really meaningful to them. And so they have dedicated thousands of hours, as we know, nights and weekends, and we really appreciate them and all of their work. And then I told Bruce he could have a word too if he was so interested. So I'll hand it over to Bruce.
Rush, it's going to be a short word. And the short word is that this process, from the very first conversation that we had over coffee with Dan, I don't know how many years ago, this process has been something, a process of discovering the kind of genius and expertise and wisdom and thoughtfulness and generosity in the community of Southwood every week. I remember being in the first meetings where we were completely disoriented, had no clue what was going on. All we knew is that when we went home, we had more energy than when we started. And I think that is what has fed this entire process. And when Joe talks about power, this has been power that we have held with open hands, and then you all have taken and actually done what is an extraordinary and incredible work over the last 3 or 4 years. And it's inspiring. I know that all of us in the firm have been it's one of the highest privileges of our career to have worked with you guys. And I just can't tell you how much it means, and how much it means not just as professionals, but in the relationships that we built. And there were events outside of our work that just made my heart jump out of my chest. And I got to thank you all for being there for all of those things. And I can't tell you how much it has meant to me.
Well, I think that is all of our appreciations. As Molly mentioned, we have actual, and she was showing them, I don't know if you guys could see, but we have actual shiny certificates that you can put up on your wall and show all your friends to show all the work you've done. And we just really want to thank you tonight as we transition into this new phase of partnership. It's not the last time we'll see each other by any means. We're going to be around for a lot longer, but it's going to be a little bit different. And so we just wanted to take a moment and mark this moment and say thank you. Molly, were you going to share some of the upcoming stuff, speaking of which?
Yeah. And first, I'm actually going to make Jordan the interpreter, because she's going to practice her simultaneous interpretation.
Ooh.
And give Marta a rest. So Oh, I can't because my computer crashed and then I'm not the host anymore. So Rush is
I'm on it.
Also, my computer crashed, but Wanda, I do have a certificate for you. I don't know if you got to see it before my computer died. So, like Rush was saying, this kind of marks where we wind down with site planning. We're
Para
not going to meet.
la planeación de
¿Me
sitio.
escuchan? Los que... I
Yes, sí, Jordan está funcionando, sí.
No.
Okay, but the people that speak Spanish. No, I don't think it's...
No nos... Wait.
Molly, can you hold for just a second?
Yeah.
Okay, so
¿Están escuchando a Jordan o a mí?
I'm on the Spanish channel and I can hear both of you when you speak.
Okay, so.
Yeah, Jordan, can you
out.
speak for a second?
A ti, Marta.
Yeah.
Ya te
we
escuché.
can hear both of you actually. So yeah, Marta, you can take a break. Jordan can pick it up.
Okay, me
Okay,
callo.
así que todos que hablan español me escuchan.
Sí.
Okay, bueno.
Okay,
perfecto.
sorry, Molly, go ahead.
That's okay. So, from here on out, we won't be meeting every week. We're only going to meet when we need to meet about something specific. So there's a couple of things to look out for in the future. One is that we will be having an optional final HOA meeting. Lori, who is the lawyer who joined us a few weeks ago, is working on to take all of your input and put it into the final draft of the HOA documents. So that one will be optional. We will let you know when that meeting is going to be. We want to give you enough time for people who would like to take a look at the documents before the meeting. So that's something to look out for. Again, it's optional. You won't have to come unless you're interested in the HOA documents. Another thing, in the end of August, we're going to be having a round of community meetings. We want to share the progress with the site plan, which is hopefully going to be approved any week now. And also some other updates about all the work that you've done with the rest of the Southwood community. We're also starting to recruit people to participate in Village 2. So right now we're reaching out to people who said they were interested, and we'll be talking about that more. So if you have a friend or family member who would like to be in Village 2, make sure they talk to us soon, because they're going to have to start going through this process that you all just finished doing. We'll also be having future meetings about the condo building and the condo association. Also, final lighting and green spaces decisions that aren't part of the site plan, but that will need to get decided before construction starts. And we will be in touch about participating in the ribbon cutting ceremony in September. So those are some things to look for, some places where we will meet or connect in the future. But for the moment, we'll just meet when we'll let you know when we'll plan to have a meeting. We won't be meeting weekly, but make sure that you meet with your financial coach if you haven't. It is really, really important as we're getting into the application phase that you connect with your financial coach to make sure you have everything you need in order when application time comes around probably next spring, beginning of the year next year. So those are all my final announcements. Is there anything that anybody would like to add or any final questions? All right.
Yeah, I will just say I can't close without saying thank you. I've heard multiple people say this in different ways tonight, that all of us have our own individual strength, but together we are actually stronger as a group. And I so appreciated this experience of working with everyone together. And I look forward to the opportunities when we can meet in the future. So thank you for your commitment and your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Be safe.
Gracias por la pizza y las galletas muy sabrosas.
Good.
Thank
Me alegra que les gustaron.
Thanks, Richard. Tell Tiffany we say
Gracias.
hello.
I will.
Ya terminamos.
Sí.
Sí.
Bueno.
Gracias, Alfredo, por estar con nosotros.
Maria, I see you trying to wave and slip out. Bye, Maria. Bye, Saul.
There's gonna be an after meeting, so I could stay.
Yeah, you gotta stay for the after party.
Hey, I always stay for last. Why not? Come on.
She was the last to get her appreciation certificate. She's gonna stay.
I mean, I'm the last one, so I might as well stay for last. Come on, guys.
That's why I started with she's gonna give us a lot of flack because you're always like, I'm the last. It's alphabetical order.
This time I'm staying quiet, yeah, guys. You know, I've been staying quiet, staying to myself, being a better person for this year. Bye, guys.
Bye, Wanda.
Bye, Wanda.
Rush, can you end the interpreting?
Oh, yeah, I can end the interpreting, and I will also stop. the
Adios,
recording.
Alfredo.